This is the Hook Better Leads podcast, and today I'm here with Jason Paris of Paris Painting and Olive Holdings. How you doing today, Jason?
Good, man. Happy to be on the show.
We are talking about traction,
That's right.
or EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System for contractors, though, and how to achieve speed and strength in leadership with this system, which is just one system.
Yeah,
but a lot of people in Minnesota and the Midwest use it.
Yeah, we actually have really high density in Minnesota, specifically the Twin Cities. I think they just had some really strong initial founders and adopters of traction that came into the Twin Cities, and it spread and it just landed.
It's like a cult.
We don't use that word. So no.
It's the first thing you say if you're in a cult. We do not use
we don't
the
use
word
that
cult.
word.
No, seriously though, but real quick pitch for traction. It's basically it's an operating system, right? That basically has all these kind of basic components that frankly I feel like just should be handed to any new business owner when they're first starting. Like, here's kind of some basic components. And some of it's like classic stuff like your vision, mission, core values. And some of it feels like real basic and like probably precedes this system a long time. But like, it's basically just like this curated toolbox. And I am not affiliated with Traction in any way. I think we almost have, I think we're going to have to like put a trademark on EOS too, because I've done content about it before. And they're like, they're really stringent with their like brand.
I bet they are. They're big enough they can do that. But
how has this been? How has this been useful for you as a contractor?
Yeah. So the trades are an evolving segment of the economy. It's arguably an industry that hasn't gone through its renaissance yet, like a lot of different sectors have. And so in a lot of ways, the bar is not very high, specifically in home services, which is what we deal in, primarily residential trades, and being professionalized. And so it's an operating system that works. Is it the best? Is it the only? I don't know. Definitely not. But it's an operating system that if you run, you hit a lot of the kind of foundational elements of being professionalized. To the points that you hit, you can't really have your vision traction organizer without identifying your core values, your 3-year picture, I think it's called, your core focus 5-year target, sales and marketing strategy, all those things. Right? Those are usually not thought out intentionally. That requires intentional thought, thinking, where do I want to go? What's our value prop? All those things, which, just to call a spade, you look at the trades in general. A lot of times it's I'm a skilled technician. Now I'm an owner operator, right? The amount of intentional deliberation that goes into business planning is usually not highly sophisticated.
Yeah,
so it's a great system that forces you to do a lot of basic business stuff that is rampant and high adoption in other market segments, right? There aren't many dentists that don't think through their core values or 3-year picture. There are lots of contractors that don't do that.
Yeah, and maybe it's people that kind of they have a passion for something like a craft, and they go into it. So same with me. I was kind of like the low perceiving strategy and more of like gung ho, let's need it. And I think another one is manufacturers sometimes get into it just because it was a need, but it doesn't always have like all that business stuff. It feels like kind of business office-y stuff. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you're like, I'm busy doing the work. What do I need to, have this vision for?
This is really kind of grounded in what would be kind of another instrumental book or concept of the EMyth, right?
Ooh, yes.
Entrepreneurial myth, which is the classic technician saying that I'm going to run my own business, but not really being an owner. And then you could almost dovetail that almost into Rich Dad, Poor Dad, of crossing the chasm of being an employee versus self-employed versus business owner, and then to kind of owning an asset, being an asset holder. And that chasm that most business owners, they start out as an employee, then they become self-employed, and that chasm to jump over to business owner and ultimately an owner, which I would classify as generating profits outside of your efforts or non-dependent on your efforts. That's a hard chasm for people to cross.
Yeah, it's huge.
Traction's a good system to start to implement the core processes that get you there. And it's what we operate off of in our companies, and big fan of Traction.
Awesome. So now that you know you need to do it, you want to do it. If you're a contractor, listen to this. I know you want to do it. If you haven't done it yet, first of all, it's not that crazy or hard to implement, and you don't need an implementer. I think that's going to cause a little bit of what do you say? I think this is something people would be scared of if they're in that organization that I'm saying this. But what I'm saying is you should be able to do some of this on your own, and you should go for it, and you should push hard, because frankly, no one can do this. No one outside of your organization can do this as well as you if you own it. If you own this in your company, you're the one that can do this. If you're an owner or you're a director level or whatever, you have the best chance of implementing this well.
Yeah, maybe I'll balance that out to the EOS gods and just say, yes, you can do it on your own. Talk through my own journey. I think it was 2017. I tried to implement this and failed.
Okay.
And you do it in your slow season.
I like that. Different
you're
opinions.
like, yeah, here's my stuff. Then you're like, you get hit the busy season. You're like, let's just take care of what's in front of me and just put the blinders on, and you just get overwhelmed, especially as a contractor.
So you did use an implementer?
No, I tried to implement it myself. It didn't work out.
Yeah.
Crashed and burned. Then 2018, we implemented it. It stuck. We've been building on it. And now we are looking to, so this is the kind of balancing what you said. You can do it on your own. You can do it successfully. And then once you have it rocking and rolling, very successful, at that point, it's sometimes worth it to bring an implementer in and refine what you have going, because it truly is valuable. Yeah.
And they've just seen so many things and that kind of thing. So, okay. So we're going to zoom in. If you're already in Traction, if you already have this mindset, if you already potentially have looked into this, we're going to zoom in on a few key elements of this, which will be clear definition of roles, the concept of the L10 meeting, quarterly rocks, and then I want you to talk a little bit about harvest season versus down season as well. So first of all, let's zoom in on clear definition of roles. How has that helped, and how has Traction helped that in your organization?
Yeah, it's we started out. I like to say we started out just a paintbrush and a dream, right? When you're the owner operator, you carry all the hats and you start adding people on, but maybe you're not quite ready to let go of something. And clear roles and clear goals, that's where you get unity and alignment. You can go really fast, really far. And that does also, put your feet to the fire to say, where do I want to go, right? What do I want to align people to? And what's our purpose? What are we actually care about? And so that's where you start setting up people's roles that give their clear accountability. And that can be very freeing as a business owner to say, I'm not going to worry about that because I know that employee X is very worried about that. I'm going to pay them to worry about it. Right now I can go home and not worry. And then there's roles, and then there's goals, and there's comp. You want to set up their goals and their comp to align with where you're trying to go as a company. And when you do, then there's really no moral hazard or awkwardness of what are you doing in your best interest that's not in the company's best interest.
Mm-hmm. And in the process of defining these clear different definitions of roles, I think something I'll add is just, it's all about responsibility. Having, it's a simple word, but it's really important. And who is responsible at the end of the day for that outcome, and having other people own outcomes. It hurts a little bit as a business owner. Those first couple of times where you let's say a full job gets handed off, like totally handed off, and let's say a different project manager or something like that. It hurts. It hurts when you're a small business owner. It's hard. But until you can really put the responsibility on somebody else, it's,
there's a couple
you'll never have freedom, basically.
Yeah, I tie in kind of two comments on that. One is the mental hang up of no one can do it as good as I can.
Yeah.
Right. Especially in the trades, super common. I'm not going to argue with you on that because I thought that about myself. I thought I was the best sales rep. No one can sell as good as I can. Even if that's true, a team of 4 or 5 people will outperform you in every scenario.
Oh,
right? Specifically
absolutely.
in
Every
sales.
time.
So, and now I found
Yeah.
that specialized people, that's all they do, and they're trained on that. They're actually hired for that. Like they're arguably like built for it. They do outperform me than whatever I could have done.
Oh yeah.
So you
That hurts
get
too,
over
though.
get
That
over
hurts.
get over
Doesn't
the
that
first
hurts the first couple times?
yeah,
Yeah.
get over the first mental hurdle of like, yeah, I might, if I can hire someone that's 80% as good as I am, I'll hire two of them. They'll outperform me. That's fine. You may just find yourself saying, wow, I actually hired someone who's even better than me. The second piece is, this is in the traction model, but the concept of a scorecard, which tracks your KPIs, you talk about your key performance indicators. You talk about responsibility, right? What is that role stewarding? That's going to either be a thumbs up or a thumbs down on a weekly basis as we get into the L10 that holds accountability, right? So you want someone to be responsible. It has to be a specific metric. You can say yes or no. And then it's not like ambiguous. So I think you're responsible, but I'm not sure, right? That's not a fun place to be.
100%. What about L10? So I love that you got into the scorecard and everyone owning a number. Let's talk about L10. What is L10 and traction, and how can contractors potentially use that? I know that from what I've seen, like I told you when we were kind of preliminarily chatting about this, I talk about L10 like with our, we do an L10. We have even like specific L10s for departments, right? And then,
Yep.
but I think about it like sometimes when I'm trying to push this on contractors, I feel like I'm like, they're like, well, we're not all in the office. So, so what is your answer to that objection? Like, we're not all in the office. A lot of these people are out in the field, or how do you handle that?
Yeah, I think, man, I would almost start with like, do you want to trade pennies for dollars, right? Or do you want to trade dollars for pennies, or pennies for dollars? Because you might say like, yeah, we're not in the office. I'm like, well, do you think it's important to get together once a week to track your key performance indicators to know if you're putting the energy and effort to problem solve the right things on a weekly basis? Or do you expect that just to happen, right? I would argue it's not human nature, and businesses are made up of humans. It's not human nature to automatically put the right focus and energy on the highest impact priorities to problem solve and drive towards a goal. That's not how human nature works. So you do have to problem solve, right? We are in the age of quarantining, so we're all doing Zoom and Skype calls and all these things. You can do phone calls with an audio component. Depending on your structure, it may be worth it for you as a business owner to drive from site to site on a weekly cadence to meet with your field reps, right? Whether sales reps or field reps, right? I would say whatever that cost is that you're going to incur, whether it's time, mental energy units, driving around if you had to, right? This is the worst case scenario. I think it's worth that cost to get the benefits of an L10 meeting, which I laid out, right?
Yeah,
Making
absolutely.
Sure you're putting a focus and energy on the highest impact activities to problem solve towards driving to the goal.
Yep. And if you could every week, you could go into with each of your employees' brains and help tweak their priorities a little bit and get them laser focused on the vision that you guys have maybe set together, but there's a vision, and help them tweak it. But it only would take you a little bit of time, and you're able to do it a little bit more at scale. And you're like, wouldn't you do that? Wouldn't you take the time to do that? It hurts to take that time up front, but then what I think of it is it cleans up the extras, like you were saying, when you're spending all these extra little moments throughout the week trying to clean up because you didn't aim properly at the beginning of the week, or whenever your L10 is. It's just aiming. It's just helping them aim every week.
Yeah, and there's a lot of bias that we all carry in our heads, and you kind of touched on one of them of like, do I have to take a moment to pause now because I'm going to get behind, right? But the reality is you're trading time, and a little bit of preparation now would probably return like a 5x multiple of saving you time later.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about quarterly rocks. What is a quarterly rock in traction, and how would you see these playing out, or how have these played out for you and your team?
Yeah, so you're kind of talking about the middle component here. We talked kind of high level, the vision traction organizer. how does that hit the ground is through an L10 meeting, which is at most basic level, a weekly rhythm to hold accountability, review the scorecard, discuss the problems that need to be solved, and align on next steps, right? So, and then in between that, what connects those two pieces are your quarterly rocks. Quarterly rocks are kind of, well, if you've never heard it, probably have no idea what it is. I'd say it's what it sounds like. On a quarterly basis, which is every 3 months, you want to establish, you have goals and rocks. Goals oftentimes are numerical, so your kind of standard or default ones would be sales numbers, production number, net promoter target, margin, something like that. Those would be your goals on a quarterly basis. Rocks are oftentimes more developmental in nature. This may be, I want to build out 5 SOPs, right? 5 standard operating procedures for my roofing company by the end of Q1, right? That's a rock I'm going to set. We're going to check in on it during our L10 meeting. It's going to be a thumbs up, a thumbs down. It's a thumbs up. That means on track. On track means great. Off track means, okay, do we need to drop that down to an IDS, which is part of the L10, which is identify, discuss, and solve? Do we need to set this as a one-on-one meeting outside of this level 10 meeting because it's a group of people, maybe it's just a one-on-one between you and your supervisor? Or is it off track, but you know what to do and you just need to do it, right? So you want to report in on these rocks on that weekly cadence. Other examples might be, I want to design a new logo, build a new truck. Might look through some of ours to come up with some better examples, but
No,
I think
that's
you get
great.
the gist of what it is.
No, those are perfect. Yeah, basically having those kind of solid quarterly goals. I mean, I just did 3 days of these because I have the quarterly kickoff stuff all like, so I did 3 days of these meetings, which, oh my God,
we start tomorrow.
When I was an employee, I just remember thinking like anything like this many meetings, I'd be like, oh God, this is so pointless. And it's like, I guess that's a good kind of next question. Like, how do you get buy-in with employees? Because I think it's a lot. Like, okay, so you could pay $5,000, $7,000 a day for a traction implementer to come in, and then they might buy in because you might be like, hey, we spent a ton of money on this. You better figure it out and play along, buddy. Yeah. Or how else can we get people to kind of be part of this? I actually I started this company with traction. I hired my first couple employees with traction already going. So I think as they came in, we just said, well, we do traction, but like, what if you were like trying to ramp up an existing team on this?
You need a visionary who can inspire people, right? And that's part of the traction model is based off of having a visionary and an integrator, right? Then you have the org chart of responsibility underneath that, but it starts with those two. And a visionary, usually the owner operator at the start, they need to be able to inspire people underneath them with a vision. Traction will pull that out of you. So that's where I would start with an annual kickoff, start with a quarterly kickoff, start with that VTO, vision traction organizer component of this.
Basically, I'll just give a real quick explanation of that too, because I think I don't know if we gave a quick, it's basically a bunch of things for your business at a glance and a one pager that you can kind of show to anyone. And they're like, oh, that's your vision, that's your target market, that's your key value proposition. Basically it gives a lot at once. So like occasionally we were talking smack a little bit about consultants and coaches before this, but if I do have a consultant, which I totally do, I totally have consultants occasionally, I will show them that very quickly so they can kind of get
consultants. They're great.
Yes. Yes. Basically my critique, before this was just sometimes consultants, and sometimes I play the role of a consultant with companies on their marketing, right? Sometimes we as consultants run in and start suggesting changes before we have all the context. And my biggest thing, I think this is something I like to preach a lot, is just as a small business owner, as a growing, growth-oriented business owner, you have more context on your business than anyone else, and you should trust yourself. That's basically my whole thing.
Yeah, man, I'd put 2 comments on that, which is I'm not as young as I used to be. And I think I've turned the corner to say, my gut is right. I'm going to go with it. Yeah. Like I've gone through too much of my life doubting my gut in situations, and I'm just done doing that. So I like your comment on that. Trust your gut. The
Mhm.
second being the VTO is great to give as a one pager to your employees, your key staff, um, those around you. It's also great to remind yourself, WTF am I doing with my life sometimes in your business, right? I'd recommend doing a VTO for yourself personally as well. But this is where you can get in those dog days of summer and you're like, what, why?
Yeah.
Life is but a mist. What am I doing? And then you might pull up, oh yeah, here's the 3-year picture. Here's our uniques. Here's our core
Yeah.
values. All right, now I'm remotivating myself right now.
Yeah, it's good.
Reminding
I
myself
actually,
what I
yeah,
want, what I'm doing.
I actually just got like the snappy bracelets for my team that just says hook leads, change lives. So I'm just like trying to remind us, we're trying to change people's lives. It's certainly something we have, like, it's a weird time. There's weird things going on in the world. Today is crazy. And the pandemic's going on, all that. So for me, it's like having like something like this is totally that one pager, but then like trying to boil it down as simple as I possibly can to remind us of our mission is like, we're trying to change contractors' lives and by taking things off their plate. And like, it's just it's hard to freaking stay reminded of these things basically, because it's tiring. Business is tiring.
I think again,
sometimes.
that's human nature, is not to stay focused and stay on the straight and narrow path and do what you want to do, right? It's human nature is to dive into cognitive dissonance and do things that maybe you don't really want or desire or believe in. And you've got to set up almost an architecture of accountability around yourself to make sure that you do what it is you want to do, right? Traction is one of those tools that helps you do that on the business side of your life.
That is so well put. That is so well put.
Send you a consultation fee.
I couldn't have said it any better. Yeah, exactly. No, it's just super good. It's like, you know, you're creating your own structure. Oh, I was going to add one thing, that you're creating your own structure. It keeps you accountable. It keeps your team accountable. And the other thing I was going to say is like sometimes, and this has been a weekly challenge for me as a business owner during this kind of tumultuous time, is your fears sometimes create, and this is just, sorry, I'm going off into like the self-help side of this, but whatever, let's do it.
These are my favorite philosophical conversations. Let's get into it, man.
We create the things that we fear. So when you're living in fear or when you're anxious about something, and this is probably from my therapy, but you start to create the things that you are fearful of. So you got to watch what you're sitting there. Like we have, in our case, sorry, I'm going into it, but we've got 28 clients we love.
Get into it, man.
We got 2 that are struggling or whatever, like they're kind of annoying and they don't have the right expectations or something like that. Well, if I focus all my energy on those two mean clients or customers, and contractors have the same thing, right? You have the squeaky wheels, and then you spend all your time focused there. Like, and here's a great example. If I'm shooting video with like a roofer client of ours that we shoot some video with, and he starts talking about like this client that wanted, or this customer that wanted 20K back, you know, and like he's having a bad day, but like we're getting sucked into that fear, and you know, there's stuff going on, whatever. There's like some, like, you know, it's real business stuff. You can't not deal with it. He had to, you know, he has to make a call. He has to deal with that. It's a positive thing because he ends up like saving the customer relationship, and it's a very positive thing. But you can't get stuck there. You have to kind of come out of it and focus then on all the great customers that you have, and make sure you're spending 80% or 90% of your energy where it's working. How do we delight people with this customer experience? How can we increase it? Not just how can we like stop the dripping sad side of the business, which there always is. Everyone has that side of their business, that part of their business where there's something that hurts. Business, you wouldn't be in business, and you already know this if you're a small business owner, you know there's always going to be something that hurts in the business. And you got to kind of like, you got to let that, I mean, I'm not saying you shouldn't be trying to fix it diligently when you have an opportunity, but you can't let that dull ache that happens all the time stop you from being over here and innovating on the customer experience for the people that you love, and all, like the 95% of your customers that are great and pay and refer and that kind of thing.
Dude, preach it, man.
Yeah,
that was great. That's like a life thing too. It's like My wife and I are coming up on our 10-year anniversary. And it's like, do you focus on the things that bother you? You focus on the things that you love, right? And to your point, you want to address items and deal with the issues and deal with challenges, but maybe not necessarily marinate in them.
Yeah.
I think that's what you're getting to in your business is there are challenges, and study them, think about them, develop an action plan, but to marinate your mind and that kind of stuff is not a fruitful endeavor.
And you recreate the situations. You're going to get a new situation because you're acting anxious towards this other customer and they get kind of weird about it. And then you got a secondary, you duplicate, you focus on it, it duplicates. That's the weirdest thing.
There's truth to that. You could almost run the analogy over to running, right? Are you going to focus on a little ache that you got in your knee or foot? Or are you going to focus on how great the scenery is, right?
Yeah.
And you start focusing on your knee obsessively. Suddenly you're changing your gait to protect it. And now everything else is out of alignment and whack, right?
Yeah.
Now stretch, do whatever you got to do, get the foam roller out, but don't obsess and marinate in that because it's going to throw everything else off kilter.
That's huge. So I want you had something in here about harvest season down versus down season. Can you talk to me a little bit about how that's thinking about that has helped your business?
Yeah, well, I think even with traction, we're in Minnesota as well as you are, and this is a very interesting place to run an exterior-based trades company because it really enforces you to seasonality, right? To a time of reflection, planning, deliberation. I think Stephen Covey originated this in his book, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, the different quadrants of activity. You have your urgent and important, which is what I would call the harvest season of just execute, go, earn your keep, all those good things. But then you have your quadrant 2 activities, which are less urgent, but very high impact. The analogy that's oftentimes used is taking time to sharpen the saw, right? And then you just start cutting down trees in the busy season, but you got to sit back and just sharpen that saw, make it really sharp and be really effective. And that's what you kind of do with the traction model as you come into these quarterly or annual rhythms, where you get to take a moment to step back, make sure your saw is really sharp. Are you being effective with your resources, which can be time, human capital, energy, monetary capital, right? You're being effective towards what you've said you want to do, as opposed to just run. Now, don't get me wrong. Huge. Running is also very important. You can't have just the goose without the golden egg. You have to have both.
Yeah, and I'll put that. I'll just kind of like say it a different way too, because my an old mentor I had a long time ago said you can't always be on a push. Like and like he was talking about fitness at the time. He was like saying like you can't sit there and try to be like in muscle mass gain all the time. You have to like take a step back and like take a rest, and just like our adrenal glands get taxed, right? Yeah. I will say it's interesting during COVID lockdowns. It's like it's hard to get back into a push. You know what I mean? Like it's hard from my point of view because like frankly at the beginning of the year this will be a good time for our business. The next couple of months will be probably good for business development and all that, but it's hard to get back in that mindset because it just still feels like the world is down. Like, you know what I mean? Like Slack was down the other day, which is a communication tool,
So, yeah, I was like, what the heck? Someone was talking about Slack. We use Slack. They're like, you should implement this in a new way. And then the next like Monday it goes down. I'm like,
it's not usually down, I'll say that, but
it's not.
It basically just feels like it's just it just feels like there's like they call it forced winter, right? Like it's just is in business, it's hard to get cranked back up again in this scenario, but you just kind of got to do it. You got to, and even when you don't feel like it, but having some time off, a couple extra days during the holidays and things like that, so important to get rested as a leader too.
You talk about fitness, you can only train as hard as you're able to recover.
Yeah.
You can't train any harder than that. And so the recovery is an equal component to being able to keep the training going.
It's good. That's good. And so I want to wrap up with that, if that's okay.
Yeah, man.
And I like that you suggested a book too. I heard at least one besides EMyth. I know a lot of these people read the EMyth. That is a great book. But you said Crossing the Chasm. So I'm gonna check that out for sure. And because Because that's a book, right?
I think I was referencing Rich Dad Poor Dad
Oh,
with
okay.
his quadrant of you start out
Ah,
as an
gotcha.
employee, then you're self-employed, then you're a business
I
owner.
didn't
and then
realize
you're
that
a
was from
shareholder.
that book. Oh, cool. That's a great
Yep.
book too.
I think it's the cash flow quadrant is what it's called.
Oh,
and then
okay,
in
cool.
between that, we just kind of ID'd like this is a very tough thing to do, is to cross
Yes.
over.
Oh yeah.
I think I'd also put
Yeah.
a plug out. I volunteer, which I think is how we got connected.
Okay.
I volunteer with the Painting Contractors Association,
Sure.
which is pcapainted.org, and helping business owners professionalize if they want to is a big passion of mine.
Is that like is that a paid thing, and is like how expensive is it?
It's kind of like I call it the PBS of painting. So you can pay to be a member and you get a lot of great things. They also generate a lot of content, a lot of resources for free to benefit the industry. So it's a nonprofit that I volunteer with. There's a lot of great people that volunteer there, and the membership is very cheap. But you can also just get involved and try and elevate the professionalization of the industry as a whole. It's specific towards painting contractors.
Yeah.
I know you have a much larger audience. The trades also has the same effect, but this is a nonprofit. It's 130 years old, specifically for painters.
So if somebody wanted to be part of that, what would be their next step?
Yeah, go to www.pcapainted.org and follow the website prompts. You could also reach out to me. I don't know if you put anything in your description, but if you don't, then don't worry about it. Don't reach out to me. Just go to the website.
Okay. And then, yeah, I will do that. I'll throw a link to your email in the description. Cool. if you'd like. And then, could you just share your company URLs too, and maybe where they could follow along on social?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have Paris Painting, Haven Builders. Then we have our paperboard marketing company, but that's not really trades related. It's more of a marketing company, kind of like you guys, that we just have in-house. And that's under the umbrella of holdings, which we call Olive Holdings. And so I'll send you a few of those URLs as well.
Awesome. So we'll throw those in the description. Let's see. So the podcast is Hook Better Leads, put on by hookagency.com and all over social on Hook Agency. Man, it was so good to chat with you today. It was the mixture of therapy and just traction chat, which I love. Yeah. I love, once you get into traction, it is just fun. Like it's fun to just chat about. It's having common language. I think that's another thing that it does between businesses. You're like, oh, what are your 3 uniques? What's your core values? You know, like it's fun. It's fun because you can like understand businesses.
Exactly, man. That's really good.
I appreciate you taking the time to listen to it, and check it out next week for the next episode. All right, bye.